The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Welcome back to the UAB Director's Chair. He is the athletic director for the UAB Blazers, Mark Ingram. I'm Tony Kurre. The show every single week here on TKR Tony Kurre Radio. You can hear at least 5 days a week. I think it airs at 2:30, 3 o'clock on Monday through Friday. And, of course, where we get your favorite podcasts, we're available on every major industry out there, Audio Boom, iTunes, iHeart, whatever. You can find this show. And kicking off here in August, a brand new UAB show. Really, I would say it's a UAB show because we're going to have, obviously, Andy Kennedy and Trent Dilfer in there. It's going to be called Inferno. You're going to be part of that. I'm going to be on that. I came up with another title. It's called Inferno, but I was thinking, how about Four on the Floor? Since there's, So
whatever you like, Tony. Whatever you like.
Well, there is a podcast named Four on the Floor, but they don't talk about college sports.
Yeah.
So anyway, but we'll be doing that show a little bit later on in August. It's going to be huge. It's going to be great. We're going to be doing it from a brand new studio that we're super excited about being part of. And
we need all of our listeners to shift to the Inferno.
Yes, we will. We've got it all. We've got it all set up that if you link up to the UAB Director's Chair, it's going to link you right up to the Inferno. So you'll be good to go, and you won't miss a beat. And that'll be a weekly program. And you and I have discussed. We're friends. I know that if something is happening inside UAB or something inside of college sports that we need to talk about immediately, I can pick up the phone. Hey, Mark, can we do a quick little 10, 15 minute podcast thing like that? We can push that stuff out too. So we're around. We're going to do that. So, seems like every single week, I always start with a discussion about lawsuits, the NCAA, student athletes, NIL, transfer portals, the same stuff over and over and over again. And that's because we have different things that are developing every single week. And every time I see a new article, I go, what is this? Is this something new? And it is something new. Yeah. So some courts in Philadelphia yesterday are trying now to decipher whether student athletes or athletes that are students, and there are over 200,000 of those across the country and 6,700 D1 teams. Just consider that's its own country, right? It's its own country, 200,000 student athletes on whether they want to be part of the federal wage and hour laws. And you're like, what?
I think 200,000, by the way, is just Division I.
Yeah, it is. It is a Division I and in the 6,700. Yeah. So that's just D1. You're right. And so I'm thinking, what is this? So here's how it goes. You can go play ball, you can get recruited, you can go through all those things. You don't necessarily have to be a paid for play player. You don't have to be an hourly wage employee of the university. You can, believe it or not, go pitch for the UAB Blazers for free, well, with a scholarship. You don't have to get paid. So how does that look, and how does that differ between the players that want to get paid and the players that don't want to get paid? And I guess maybe some pros and cons of maybe just staying status quo the way it is right now, because quite frankly, I don't want to pay taxes.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is so the court rules that, and who knows what that'll mean for all of us, Tony? I mean, there's a new lawsuit every single day, it doesn't feel like it. There's a new lawsuit nearly every single day, and they're all similar but not the same. I bet there's 10 questions that are really in the weeds but important around that topic. If student athletes are employees, do they have to even go to school, right? Like, let's say the person here that's my ticket manager, Chris Curtis, he's an employee of the university. He represents the university, goes out into the community and tries to sell tickets. He will go to all sorts of student functions trying to sell tickets and making people aware. He goes to the Rotary or the Kiwanis Club trying to sell tickets. He doesn't have to go to school. He's not required as an employee to go to class. Okay, so why would the point guard who is employed as our point guard and represents our university, why would they have to go to class?
Great question.
Well, now we're completely away from what we started out as, which is we started out as an avenue to education for people who were superior athletes, that they could get access to education. And that sounds like that's sadly going away. And then, of course, there's Title IX implications. Most people don't really understand what Title IX is. It's an educational amendment to the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Says that no person is going to be discriminated against at any educational institution that receives federal funding. So that's United States Code Section 20. Now, in 1994, an Illinois Congresswoman named Cardis Collins introduced what's called the Equity in Athletics Diversity Act, EADA, and we fill out what we call the EADA report every year, and it's to monitor Title IX's impact on athletics. Mm-hmm. And it asks us questions about our roster sizes, how much scholarship money we spend on each sport, male to female, salaries of coaches, this kind of thing. And so it's a report that we submit to the Office of Civil Rights. Why is all that intertwined? Well, that Title IX has an impact on college athletics because they are not employees, because they are not, they are students. Mm-hmm. It has nothing to do, like if I wanted to have an all male or all female athletic department staff, I can do that. Now, there may be a different organization that says that they have a problem with that, but Title IX would not be that organization. Yep. It does not dictate anything about the male to female ratio of my employees. It does impact the male to female ratio of my student athletes, which is a lot of people think is supposed to be 50-50. Not true. Not true. If you have 200 males, you don't have to have 200 females. That is not true. What it is if UAB is 62% female students, the student population, then my opportunities for student athletes must also be 62% female to, what would that be, 38% male. Mm-hmm. So it's not 50-50. It's based on your enrollment of your student body. It's the ratio male to female ratio of your student body. And all that to come back to, if your employees, does Title IX have an impact? And that just changes the way we look at how many sports we have, what those sports are. And so inevitably, it seems as if there will be some number of opportunities taken away from probably young men and young women. How many? And it could depend on how many sports you currently have. We have 18 sports at UAB. The rule is we have to have 16. Mm-hmm. So do we continue to have 18? Maybe, maybe not. Well, does the NCAA requires you to have 16, as I said, to be a Division I program? You know, does this shift their thinking and they go, hey, now you only have to be 8, 6, 10. I don't know. Or maybe they go up. It could actually go the other way. There's conversation around roster limits. Can football continue to have 120 people, or do they need to be 85 and everybody's on scholarship? We have 85 scholarships, but you can't have more than 85 people. Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, okay, well, why can't we have walk-ons? Well, because the walk-ons are participants, so that drives up your male participation rate.
That's fine.
So it's a complicated thing, man. It's not that simple.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Is there a reason to think that if you're not a paid player or a paid individual, is there any advantages to not wanting that deal? If you say, listen, I don't want to be part of this federal wage thing. I don't want to pay taxes and they don't have to pay me. I just want to play because I think I'm good enough and I want to enjoy the college experience. I like it the way it was. And maybe, God willing, if I'm one of those 1% that actually goes to the next level and makes it as a pro, that's just a blessing on top of the cake. Is there an advantage to just staying status quo for some of these people? Are there advantages?
Yeah, because you're an out-of-state student, and you're on, a 50% scholarship. No, it doesn't matter. I mean, what percent? You're on a scholarship of some amount. Is the compensation going to be, you get the scholarship, which is not taxable today, you get the scholarship and the wage, or do you get a number and then they go, and Tony, now you got to pay for your own school? Because when I say, Tony, we're going to give you $50,000, oh, yeah, well, that's taxed. So really, you're only taking home, whatever, $35,000. And now you got $35,000 and you got to pay for your own college. Well, if you're in state, maybe that works. But if you're in out of state, maybe it doesn't. And so it could be better for you to just leave it alone.
And will there be, knowing it's going to be very competitive, because obviously if you're talking about the autonomy for some of the higher ranked schools, they're not, yeah, we're going to pay you and we're not going to make you pay for your education. But I guess there is a possibility that some smaller schools may decide to take that route and say, listen, if we're having to pay you, we have to make up the difference somewhere. So you're going to have to pay for some of your schooling.
Well, or like, hey, we feed the team lunch every day. We're going to stop doing that.
Yeah.
We're going to stop doing that because we need those dollars that we spend on that food to pay you. That we're going to give it to you directly. You feed yourself, or, we're going to have to charge you a health club membership, a gym membership to work out in our weight room, which you're required to do. So you're going to pay some of that back so that we can pay the strength staff. If you want access to the nutritionist, here's what it costs.
Well, let me ask you this too. Is there, I'm assuming there's a possibility
about a copay in the training room.
Yeah. But maybe there's a chance where you go in and say, listen, I want to get paid. And then halfway through your freshman year, it ain't working out the way you thought. And you're like, you know what? I want to go back. I want to go back the way it was. I just want to have my scholarship and just want to be able to play for free. And then will that be something that they could change? Can they change mid-season? Can they change?
I mean, this is new as of yesterday, right? So maybe, so that these are the details that the people that file these lawsuits don't even fathom.
Yeah.
Because they refuse to accept all the things that we do for the student athletes that are beyond paying for their scholarship. And they simply look at, what do we pay the football coach? What do we pay the basketball coach? And that's an egregious number. And the student athletes are the most important, and they aren't getting that. And it's just false. It's just false. They're getting the scholarship money. We pay for all their travel. We pay for their trainers. There's no copay. We pay for all their rehab, no copay. We pay for their strength coach. They don't pay a gym membership or an extra cost to have a personal trainer. They don't pay the nutritionist. We do. We pay for all their tutors. So these are things that we may have to start saying, hey, we'll set the tutor up for you, Tony, but you're going to have to pay them. They're $30 an hour.
Yeah. Mark Ingram, the UAB athletic director. It's called the UAB Director's Chair. Fantastic show. We do it every week here on the TKR radio network, as well as our podcast. It's available wherever you get your podcast. We're off on the YouTube channel right now. You can watch us every single week, and a brand new show coming up in August with Trent Dilfer and Andy Kennedy and Mark and myself. It's going to be called The Inferno. It's going to be a fantastic show. We're talking all kinds of college sports, plus some outside things. We'll talk about personalities and no politics, but probably some classic rock, some things like that. So we'll get into that a little later on in August. This has been one of the most, and I've done sports radio and I've been doing sports for 30 years. This seems like it's been the longest off season I can ever remember in college football season. I don't know what it is. I was talking to a friend of mine and he's like, it's only 6 weeks, 6 weeks from Saturday, coming up. We're recording the show on a Friday from tomorrow, late August. And I said, dude, 6 weeks, it seems like an eternity. You're saying it's only 6 weeks. It seems like it just has been the longest offseason. And I don't know if that's because all I know is the 24th or 25th or 26th or whenever that is in August, when we have those at earnest games, the small games and the bigger games, the week one. All I know is when college football starts, it's like the world stops. Everything's okay again. It doesn't matter what kind of personal problems you're having. Doesn't matter what's going on at work or whatever. Your football team's back on the field. And at least for a while, the next 13 or 14 weeks, we can just forget about life and just enjoy college football. And that's what I love about this part of the country and about UAB and about Auburn, about Alabama and everything else. But it does feel like I'm not sure what to expect when I turn the TV on. I mean, it's not going to be that much different. I know there's teams obviously in Oklahoma and Texas moving to the SEC are probably the largest tectonic plate moves that we've had in college sports in quite some time. But have you thought about that? Does it feel weird to you a little bit?
I mean, yeah, it does feel like it's been a while since we played. I can't believe it's only 6 weeks away. But you're saying it's been the longest offseason. I feel like it's the fastest summer. I feel like summer gets shorter.
Yeah.
Every year, we do camps in June and coaches take some vacations in sort of the early July time. And then poof, you're right back at it. And it just doesn't feel like much of a break. And everybody else who's not in athletics, they're like, hey, man, we work all year too. Like, that's not weird. But it's that look, there's a lot of people out there who work really hard. It's just that it's long hours, it's weekends, it's nights, it's early mornings, and it's a lot of that for a long period of time. So when you get to the summer, you're like totally gassed, like, oh, thank heaven. And then it just feels like that time to sort of recharge is shrinking. But maybe it isn't. It just feels like it is. Maybe I'm just getting older.
No, it's crazy because college football used to be 4 months of the year. I remember doing sports radio 20 years ago on Jocks, and we're like, okay, we'd have meetings in November, December, trying to decide what we were going to talk about in January, February, and March, because we knew it was early part of the year. There wasn't really a whole lot of going on. You had National Signing Day, you had Quiet Day, but I mean, there wasn't a whole lot. Now it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which I think is great. It's great for the sport. You know, and obviously it's been wonderful this offseason to at least talk college football. It's not the aspect of it that I enjoy talking about, but at least it's out there, outside recruiting and everything else. I do want to ask you too, and you brought up Title IX, and I think ESPN carries a huge stick. If ESPN wants cornhole or pickleball to be the next big sport, they can make it the next big sport. That's how powerful they are. And I've worked there. I've been part of that organization. I had Mickey Mouse's face on my checks for a while. I get that. It's amazing that the pool they have. And just by watching a little bit of the ESPYs last night, I mean, they are, and I'm not saying they're pushing women's sports, and it shouldn't be pushed any more than I'm not saying that. I think it's great. The Caitlin Carter thing to me has just been an amazing thing because it seems like
Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark. I'm sorry. I'm thinking the other woman, Carter. I'm thinking, it's been amazing to me because it's almost like they've been digging for a Tyrannosaurus Rex for 55 years and they've just found the first bone. And all of a sudden, it's like it's coming out of the ground and we're like, oh my! And it seems like every night it's another new story. Now it's nothing to look at the top headlines. I'll look at the bottom line. It's all WNBA. And I realize that there's not a whole lot of other sports going on right now outside the WNBA. And they've done a great job at taking that part of the season. But does it feel like there's it's not a resurgence because it hasn't been here, but does it feel like women's sports is more important now than it's ever been? No.
Well, I can't explain why people are drawn to Caitlin Clark. Everybody wants to make their own assessment. You could kind of speculate as to what that is. I would say my attraction to her is, first of all, she scores, she shoots from anywhere, which I think is exciting and makes it a lot of time, which is just wild. So I think that's exciting about her. She seems to do a great job, and I don't know, but she seems to do a great job letting all this negativity kind of roll off and doesn't even faze her. And so I'm really impressed by that. I don't know why. I can't figure out why some, whether they're current or former WNBA players or coaches, want to kind of hold her down. Like, oh, she's not that good, or I don't know why she's getting all the, like they're jealous.
They're jealous. You just nailed it.
This is Michael Jordan. This is the Michael Jordan effect when Jordan hit the NBA. And how the interest changed in the NBA.
Do you remember how it was? Do you remember?
LeBron, Kobe, there's been some moments where some incredibly great players showed up and it changed it, and it was good for everybody.
Do you remember what happened to the PGA when Tiger Woods came on board?
Yes.
19, 20, 21-year-old, and there were some people actually saying, it's just an anomaly. He's good. And he was on Johnny Carson when he was 6, but what's the big deal? I mean, it's next thing you know, he wins 15 majors. And it was good. High tide raises all boats. It was great for everybody.
For the game.
Yeah, for the game. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't be jealous of one guy. And I remember there was a player named David Duval at the time who was really, really good. And he said, I guess he was kind of heavy in college. He played at Georgia Tech. And he talked about how he felt like Tiger Woods changed the game for everybody because Tiger was like the first player, or one of the first, who really saw fitness as like a critically important element, and not just like, hey, cardiovascular fitness.
Yeah.
Tiger Woods is like bench pressing and stuff. And they were like, what are you bench pressing for? I don't know, but he hits it farther than everybody else. Maybe we should all start bench pressing. And Duval changed his body.
Yeah.
Duval changed his total shape from this to this and got great and was number one in the world for a while. And So I think all that's really good. I went to a tournament. It was the Masters and whatever. And I remember I went to like a practice round, and when Woods finished, there was just this mass of humanity that left the course. And it was like, there's other players here.
Yeah.
Like it looked like half of the crowd left. And if I was one of the other players, would you be jealous of that? I don't know. You're a human. It's hard not to be. But if you could just pause, if you're in the WNBA and remember those moments and the Michael Jordan moments and go, okay, this is actually good for us.
Yeah. Embrace it. And what's funny is, it's not really funny. How many women have, from the Brittany Greiners to the C. Reeses to all, who've been clamoring to look at us, look at the W, look at us, and now we're finally looking at them.
Now people are.
And all of a sudden it seems like they're not, like there's too much notoriety, and that goes from hard fouls, which I thought was great. I thought it was great for the sport. I thought it was great for Caitlin. I thought it was great for the league. It made me want to watch. But now I'm not kidding you. I mean, almost every single night I turn the TV on, I see the Fever on. We're talking about a team that's 6-17. That's on, but I'm watching it. I'm watching it because I want to see it. I want to sink one from the paint. I want to see it happen. So, I mean, good for her, good for them. I mean, I think it's fantastic. Embrace it. And it's much like soccer was. And I want to say 6 or 7 years ago. So double that. When you get older, you just start doubling things. I don't ever remember soccer being as big as it was. We've talked about it for 40 or 50 years, but we were never talking about the Euro or the Copa or the World Cup or anything else. Now, when it came to Atlanta, the Olympics in Atlanta, and then we had some soccer played over at Legion Field, and of course the World Cup coming over, that certainly changed a lot of that. But I mean, now I'm sitting there watching England-Spain the other night. I'm sitting there watching this lousy 1-1 game, 89 minutes into it. I'm like, what am I doing? Wasting 3 hours of my time watching 2 goals. Spain had one shot on goal in the entire second half. One shot on goal in the entire second half. And I'm sitting there and I'm embraced by it. So I'm kind of like, and maybe it's my kid, but I mean, that's all good. I mean, it's great. More sports are better for everybody. More sports are better for everybody. Do I want to watch a rerun of MacGyver from 1983, or do I want to watch a brand new Spain-New England game that's playing for the Copa Cup or whatever it is? I don't even know what that is. So be it. That's great. That's super good stuff. Something else that is I'm really excited about this, not only because it sounds like a money grab, but it's not, because you got the relative pieces that you can honestly say this is the real deal. And I don't know if you heard about this, but tomorrow night, West Palm Beach, Sammy Hagar with Michael Anthony, Jason Bottom, and Joe Satriani kick off the Best of Both Worlds tour. It is going to be a celebration of Eddie Van Halen, a celebration of Van Halen music.
I wonder why Wolfgang isn't playing with him.
He doesn't want to have anything to do with it because it was his dad, and he doesn't feel like it should be a money grab, although it seems like he has kind of waffled a little bit more now that he's kind of gotten over what are the 4 stages of death. I mean, he's kind of gone through the pain and so maybe it's a situation where maybe later on the tour, he'll realize, hey, listen, these guys really did love my dad, and they are playing this music because of the music that he brought on this world. And maybe there's a part of him, because he's a hell of a guitar player too. He feels like he needs to be part of that. He's been invited. David Lee Roth is not. But yeah, they have already practiced over 45 Van Halen songs. It's going to be.
So is Sammy going to sing the Dave songs?
It's going to be 80% Van Halen, 20% Sammy, some Montrose, some things like that. And it starts in West Palm Beach. I think they're playing in Alpharetta in Atlanta, I think next week, which I'm like, dude. Yeah, I'm like, yeah. I mean, that's about as close they're getting something. I think it's on the 16th of July. So I'm like, I may have to lock the doors up the station and head over there to catch that show. Yeah, your thoughts on it, man? Because I mean, it's like it's Sammy. They had the most success with him. I think it may be one of the biggest things. And by the way, I saw this stat Friday, and I was talking about it on Fox 6. More people have seen a concert in 2024 than any other year in rock and roll history, and it's only July 13th. We still have another half a year to go. Now, a lot of that has to do with Taylor Swift. I get that. But more people have seen a concert this year than in any other year, the entire year in history of music, which everybody's touring. I mean, everybody, you and I went to that list of bands that were touring 50 years ago and now are touring now. It's incredible. And it's crazy because during COVID, I thought it was going to kill everything. But boy, man, everyone just came back out and they can't wait to get back out and enjoy. That's the one thing about, it was like when the best thing I can use it as an analogy is when the BP oil spill hit the beach. Man, it sucked. And everyone said the beach is going to be closed for 10 years. It'll never be the same. There's going to be oil rolling up in 2037. And what happened? We did the best we could. We cleaned it up. And the year after the year it happened, record-breaking number of people were like, no, I don't care if I come out of the ocean black. I'm going back in the ocean. I'm going back to the beach. I love it too much. I don't care if I see a seagull with one wing. I'm going back to the beach. Next thing you know, it goes from $2,000 to $4,000 a week, and you're like, what just happened here? That's what this feels like with people going out and seeing rock groups again. So, but your thoughts on Sammy Hagar? I know you're a big Van Halen fan.
Yeah, the Red Rocker, man. I liked Montrose and got some of his music, in my playlists. I like Sammy Hagar. I think I've said this before. I probably have. I know I've said it to other friends of mine. I was pretty young when David Lee Roth left, and I like David Lee Roth by himself too. Like the Crazy from the Heat album, I think was really good, and Skyscraper I thought was really good. But so Sammy Hagar joins Van Halen, and Van Halen was my favorite band, and I kind of felt treated it like he was the new stepmother trying to act like my parent.
Yeah, that's good.
Like defiant. I'm not going to like this guy. And I told a friend, he finally took me till I was probably 40 years old to kind of go, man, they're just two different bands.
Mm-hmm.
When people go, do you like this or that? Who do you like better? It's like they just have the same name. They're two totally separate groups.
Yeah.
They have a different style, and I like both of them. But they're just very different.
The stepmother analogy is perfect, man. But
it's kind of a way I treated it. Like, I'm not ever going to like that guy. When really, I actually kind of liked it a lot.
Yeah, and the stepmother was pretty cool. I mean, she did pretty well. And it's unfortunate that David Lee Roth, because him and Sammy are about relatively the same age, and obviously they have aged differently. And David
Lee Roth is such appears to be such a what's the right word? Dominating, like his personality is like, it's what my kids would say is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
He appears to be a lot.
Yeah.
And maybe they all are, but he appears to be a lot to deal with.
Well, he is no longer cool. And I always talk about cool. Cool is real important. You need to be cool. And Sammy Hagar is still cool. And David Lee Roth, if David Lee Roth would tour with Van Halen, I would assume they would be playing in Branson, Missouri. Doing some 3 shows a night. Pigeon Forge, three shows a night kind of thing. And that's not cool. That's not cool. They still have, but the band can still get after it. And the fact they got Joe and Jason playing, drums and guitar, this band's going to be about as tight as a band out there. I mean, Michael's still getting after it. And obviously Sammy can still hit the notes. So I'm excited for it. I can't wait to hear it. So,
well, and Satriani and Bonham have really they've just done a lot of stuff like this. As great as they both are, neither one of them have ever really been a part of a band that was super successful. Steve Vai is that way.
Yeah.
He played for David Lee Roth, and he played for Whitesnake for like 2 albums with Roth and like 1 with Whitesnake, and that's kind of it, but he's considered to be one of the best ever. How's that possible?
Think about this, man. When you think about this, because you got your Sammy Hagar fans, obviously. I love Sammy before he joined Van Halen, and I loved him certainly afterwards. I'm a huge Joe Satriani fan. I love Michael Anthony, and I love Jason Bonham. I've been following him. So you got that component. Then you're going to have your Van Halen fans who never got a chance to see Van Halen play live. And they're going to go, listen, I never got a chance to see him, so this is going to be the closest thing I got. And you got Joe Satriani that, quite frankly, no one can play like Eddie Van Halen, but he's going to be as close as it possibly gets. And for him to be that guy, he's going to get up there and go, man, let's. There's going to be a lot of big lighters during that show. They're probably going to be saying a silent prayer for Eddie Van Halen at the beginning of her show, and they're going to soup it up. So super cool. All right, great stuff, man. Yeah, we are only 6 days or 6 weeks away from college football. It will be here. I hope for your case it slows down a little bit. I hope for mine it speeds up a little bit. I can't wait for it to get here. We got our new show coming up, The Inferno, a little bit later on in August. It's going to be fantastic. But until next week,
ready.
Thank you, my man. I appreciate you, and we'll catch up next week.
All right, babe. Go Blazers.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.